Hi, rapid games are over in Grand Chess Tour Croatia Rapid and Blitz. Still, Gukesh is in sole lead, but now we are going to analyze a interesting game played by Fabi and Magnus. In this game, Fabi started the game with e4, and Magnus played c6 Karakon defense, d4, d5, and Fabi played the advanced variation, which is the main line. So bishop f5, he played an interesting variation, knight d2, e6, knight b3, and knight d7. And Fabi played knight f3. Here Magnus played a6 first. He's preparing for c5 break. If he plays direct c5, b takes c5, knight takes c5, knight takes c5, bishop takes c5, and bb5 check will come. So first Magnus playing a6, prevent bishop b5 check, and then he will play c5. Then bishop e2, c5, c3, maintaining the pawn structure. And Magnus played h6. Already, Magnus played the same position from white side in 2018 against Navarra. That game ended in a draw after d takes c5. But in this game, Fabi played castle c4, knight d2, b5. And Fabi played knight e1 with ideas like g4, f4, and f5 break on the king side. Here, Magnus just developed his knight c2, and bishop h7. And Fabi played f4. And here Magnus played an interesting move, h5, to prevent g4. And obviously, bishop takes h5 is not possible because of bishop takes c2, queen takes c2, and rook takes h5. So here Fabi played d3 because when he plays h3, play g4, then black will play h4 to prevent g4. So first Fabi played g3. Okay, can you find some plan for black to continue this position? Yeah, in this position, black's play will be on queen side. Like he can play a5, b4. This is the major plan in this line. And white will try to create play on the king side by playing knight e3, knight f3, knight h4, and f5 break. So at some point, you have to play g6 to prevent f5. So Magnet traded the bishop for the knight and played g6. So now it's not easy for white to get kingside break. And Fabi played knight f3, and it's a beautiful square for this knight. Bishop d2, bishop e7, king g2. King g2 idea is to prepare h3 and g4. And black played knight b6, and Fabi played h3. Now, can you find the best move for black? Yeah, actually, white is preparing g4. So here the best move for black is h4. A good move because obviously taking this one is not a good idea. So for g4, we can go to the g3 square with a pawn support. That's the idea behind h4. And rook e1 and a5, preparing for the queenside break. So bishop d1 with the ideas like rook e3, bishop e1. So b4, queen c1, first queen d7, rook b8, improving the rook. And Fabi played bishop e1, threatening to win a pawn here. So knight e4 and knight a4. Obviously, playing for a pawn is not a good idea here because after bishop takes e4, pawn takes e4, rook takes e4, queen c6, rook e2, and knight b6 with the idea of knight d5. And black has great compensation for a pawn. So here, Fabi played rook b1 and pawn takes c3, pawn takes c3, and almost only move for black is castle, connecting the rooks. Now, can you find the best continuation for white? Actually, this is where Fabi spent a lot of time. When he played this move, his time came below 4 minutes. Actually, the best continuation is bishop takes e4, but he didn't play this because after pawn takes e4, rook takes e4, bishop a3, deflecting the queen because this queen is the only defender for this rook. So queen c2 is the best move, and rook b2, rook takes b2, knight takes b2, bishop takes h4, and knight d3. Actually, in this position, black is 2 pawns down, but he has a great compensation for the pawns because now rook b8, rook b2 is coming, and queen c6 is coming. So black's pieces are completely dominating the position. But still, white is doing good, but it's not easy to play accurate moves for white. Maybe Fabi analyzed these things and he was not sure about it. That's why he didn't play bishop takes e4, and he played queen d1, which is not a great move. Here Magnus played rook b2 and rook takes b2, knight takes b2, threatening to win the queen. So now once again the best move for white is actually queen b1. And after rook b8, white can just play bishop takes e4, pawn takes e4, and now he can take with the queen so that his queen will be slightly active. But Fabi played queen e2, once again slightly bad move, and rook b8. And here Fabi played knight takes h4, which is actually a mistake. Now can you find the best continuation for black? Actually, the best continuation is g5, but Magnus missed it because if f takes g5, bishop takes g5, rook f3, and knight d3, good move. Bishop takes d3, pawn takes d3, rook takes d3, queen a4 with the idea of queen a3 and rook b2. So black is 2 pawns down in this position, but black is completely dominating. Actually, this position is winning for black. And for g5, if white plays knight f3, pawn takes f4, rook on e3 is trapped. So only move is rook takes e4. But still, direct pawn takes e4, queen takes e4 gives some counterplay for white. So the best move for black is knight d3. Anyway, the rook is up, so there's nothing to worry about it. So bishop takes d3, pawn takes d3, queen takes d3, then pawn takes e4, queen takes e4, and rook b2 check. So once again, black is completely winning in this position. But Magnus didn't play this. For knight takes h4, he played knight d3. And Fabi played bishop takes d3, c takes d3, queen takes d3, rook b2 check, rook e2, queen b7. Fabi played knight f3 and Magnus played a4, h4. Fabi trying to create attack on the king side, a3, h5, g takes h5, g takes h5, takes e2 check, queen takes e2, queen b2. Obviously, trading queens is winning for black. So king f1 and queen c1 pinning the bishop and also threatening to take on c3. Here Fabi played queen g2 check, and this is where Magnus made a mistake. Actually, he played king h7, which is a mistake. The best move is king h8. And if white plays h6, threatening to checkmate on g7, then bishop f8 defends the checkmate. Actually, this position is around equal. But here, Magnus played king h7, which is actually a mistake. Okay, now can you find the best way to punish this mistake? Here, the best way to punish this mistake is f5. It's a brilliant move. Now e takes f5 is completely losing because of e6. If pawn takes e6, queen g6 check, king h8, and after queen e8, white is winning a piece in 4. So for f5, best option for black is queen f4, pinning the knight, and f takes e6, knight g5, making use of the pin, and after king f2, knight takes e6, bishop d2. White is clearly 2 pawns up, and now white's piece is also active. But in this position, Fabi was below 30 seconds and he completely missed it. He played h6 and threatening checkmate. Simply king takes h6, queen h3 check, king g7, and black's king is completely safe. Still, after king e2, will just equal because after knight takes c3, bishop takes c3, queen takes c3, king f2, queen c2 check, king g3. This around equal, but here once again in time pressure, Fabi made a mistake. He played queen g2 and Magnus won the pawn on f4. And king e2, again queen c1, king f1, queen g8 check, bishop f8, and black's king is completely safe. And queen g2, knight takes c3. And queen f2, knight e4, threatening the queen. Queen e3, bishop b4, king g2, queen c2 check, king h3, and bishop takes e1, queen takes e1, and queen takes a2. And Fabi played queen c1, and here after queen f2, Fabi resigned because Magnus is threatening checkmate, threatening to win the knight, and also this is a passed pawn. So maybe he can just give few checks, but after king g7, there's no check. So this is completely winning for Black. Very interesting game, but Fabi is not good form in this tournament. Magnus also made some mistakes, but Magnus won the game. And still, Gukesh isn't so lead. The Blitz games are about to start today. Let's see who's going to win this tournament. Do subscribe for more chess improvement content. Thank you for watching.